What's up, guys? I'm Crystal Lee Naomi, aka Jasmine Borders on Tyler Perry's Sisters. Be sure to subscribe to the Haves and the Have-Nots review for not only reviews on the Haves and the Have-Nots, but also on Sistas. And while you're at it, give your girl a follow on Instagram at Crystal Lee Naomi. And I'll see you every Wednesday at 9, only on BET.
All right, Sistas fans, we're talking last night's episode of Sistas, Season 2, Episode 17, entitled Addicted. Now, what would I give this episode? I didn't watch it live. I was out shopping last night because I've been in my apartment for over 10 days due to the fluctuating snow, as well as not getting paid until Monday due to the, my Google ad revenue not hitting my account until Monday. So I had stuff to do. But in any case, just so you know why I wasn't watching live or tweeting and, all that good stuff. Plus, I did a live stream like super early. This morning. So, yeah, I hadn't watched it. What would I score the episode? Honestly, I did not think of it. But if I were to give a score, I would probably say that even though there were some scenes I could have done without, I would say this episode gets a strong 8 out of 10 from me. Just because it has brought about some very good conversations with a few fans. So personally, 8 out of 10. I didn't have a lot of massive problems with it, but the little things that spark conversation, I'm really wondering where Tyler Perry is going with certain characters and topics. So, it's interesting because it sparks just discussion, not out of frustration, but more so a curiosity. So without further ado, let's jump into it. I think my biggest critique for the episode is it seems like Tyler, I know maybe it's a personal thing, but for me, it's almost like Tyler's picking on specific characters who I've said I've liked for various reasons, male and female. This isn't like old crushes and everything. No. I mean, in terms of how certain characters are portrayed, the way they interact with other characters, and more often than not, it's almost like the secondary or reoccurring characters who I feel have the best dynamics with specific main cast members, as opposed to the Sistas group themselves, but that's just my opinion. So Rhea is basically nagging Zach for the first few minutes of the episode about the drugs, and she doesn't believe any of his pleas about how these aren't his. I didn't do it. I didn't do the credit card fraud. I didn't put the kilo of coke in the truck. I didn't know they were there. She's basically nagging about how disappointed, the thing, I was stupid for having hope in you, even though looking at your file, you were a model inmate, and, I'm not going to, give you any more phone calls and stuff like that. I put my job on the line enough for you. Okay, that's accurate, but nobody made you do it. He would give you a certain puppy dog eye stare, and you just give in. So my problem is, if you're mad at me, if you don't want to have anything to do with me, you don't believe in me, shut the hell up and move on and stop standing there just nagging me. That's really it. If you're through with me, you're through. But that's about it. So, Zach is pissed off. All right. Then we go over to Andi's, the law firm. It's already after 5. Fatima checks in on Andi's like, hey, are you going home? It's after 5 and time flew by. So, Fatima, she's like, hey, go ahead, go home. I'll stay here and take care of a few things. And as soon as Fatima leaves, she calls Gary saying that, hey, meet me at my place. I'm about to get off work just to talk. All right. So then Fatima is in the parking lot listening to Zach's voicemail about how he's in jail, and Hayden just magically pops up. And it's like, well, wait, I just parked here. So don't worry. And she is invited to dinner, but he literally said, she's like, F all, because I know you're up to something. So we got, all right, this is the first scene of the episode that has me going, All right, so Jacoby and Maurice are finishing up for the day. I think, they're getting their files and reports ready. And Jacoby tells Maurice to, Maurice just counted the money. He's like, man, if I had this kind of money. Jacoby's like, no, don't even think about it. He's like, no, don't worry. I wouldn't do anything like that, B. And Maurice, Jacoby's like, really appreciate it if you stop calling me the B word. And from there, is like, oh, okay. So I don't call you the B word. So next time you need help on a report or file, don't ask for help. And then Jacoby's like, well, just because I asked you to not call me a B, why are you acting like a B? And it seems almost like we're getting glimpses of Jacoby showing Alonzo-ish homophobic vibes in a way, but it was really hard because at first I was disgusted, like, Tyler, don't do it to don't have this character just be homophobic to be homophobic. But the conversation as it was going on, he did say, like, well, if you call Alonzo, a B, because, Maurice started to call him out like, oh, okay, so you really are like your buddy Alonzo. But he's like, no, I'm not. But if you were calling him a B word and whatnot, then I can see why he did what he did to you. And to be fair, I agree. Now, I know some people nowadays would be like, Jeremy, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to cancel you for this because you said that. What I'm saying is, gay or straight, because Sabrina tells him later in that same scene, how you really need to stop saying the B word like that. Because just because it's a quote unquote term of endearment, it's the same thing as the N word, Like, if I'm not saying if it's okay to say the B word or the N word, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is it's almost like a group text. Like, there are certain things you say in a group text that you wouldn't just say to other random people. Like, like certain, girls, like, they call each other B and it's a term of endearment. But if it's somebody who's not familiar with your usual jargon around your friends like that, then they'll definitely take it in a different perspective. Not as a term of endearment, but as a term that's derogatory. So I feel like Jacoby had every right to stand up for himself in that moment. So as they're going back and forth, Sabrina breaks up the argument. And as, Jacoby is turning his files report, because, you probably want me to mention didn't Jacoby mention he'd probably get Maurice fired? I mean, to be fair, if you look at everything that's been going on, how he's been treating Jacoby since he's arrived, not to mention how he does work and whatnot, you have to wonder why he hasn't been fired already. So again, he's been harassing Jacoby nonstop. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with him standing up for himself. Like, again, he asked him to stop calling him the B word and whatnot. So yeah, but in any case, Sabrina comes over, gives her the files, and has a note to meet up at a happy hour at Billy Jake's, I believe it's the name of the bar or whatever. So after he leaves, Jacoby's like, all right, good night, y'all. And then Sabrina's like, you're not going to tell him good night? I ain't got nothing to say with him. Then just screams the B word at him. And it's like, okay. And then, Maurice, like, I don't like him. But then as Sabrina chews him out for calling, everybody the B word, like, she doesn't even like it. He's like, turns out he likes him. He really likes him a lot, pretty much, goes down all the reasons. And it's like, well, he's straight. And then, it's almost like we're supposed to feel sorry for Maurice. Like, yeah, well, I know not to chase after a straight man, get beat up in the parking lot and whatnot. But that was a kind of a different situation. Alonzo pretty much set that up. But in any case, calls her out about the note that Jacoby left, and also mentions Calvin. But, Sabrina ain't trying to hear that, so she leaves. And she also doesn't feel comfortable about leaving him alone late at night to work at the bank because, just in case of another Alonzo pop up. So after that, we go over to Danni at the airport, and Preston's sister comes by, and she's the one that introduced Preston to Danni back in season 1. I actually watched that episode because I actually skipped it back in the day. That was during the time where my videos for Sisters weren't doing well. She apologized for her ignorant brothers, and she just leaves. And she was actually on a trip as opposed to just popping up, buying a ticket just to see Danni. So Danni calls Sabrina and lets her know the situation about the sister, and she's going to get a drink, and Danny's like, oh, I'll meet you. It's like, no, I'm going to meet with the guy from the bank. So yeah, she's also like, wait, Preston's sister came in. Do you think Preston is staying with you? Do you think she's coming over to your place? No. Preston knows not to have an uninvited guest like that. So we go over to this. Was a frustrating scene. Okay, so Andi goes over to the salon. It's just Karen in there, and she pretty much talks about how she feels guilt because Gary lost a lot because of her. And then Karen's like, well, didn't you almost lose a lot because of him? Like, she lost a lot, but thankfully she got it back and then some. But it's like she's feeling lost. She's feeling behind. She's not married, and this is the part that just got me. It's like, and I will admit, I do admire KJ's performance as well as the writing Tyler Perry put into the scene, because as frustrating as it is to watch Andi, at the same time, I feel like it probably hits home because we know people like this in our lives. It's like they come to us because they have a problem, but then they want to start some shit. Here's my thing. You ask for this advice knowing you're about to do something that's completely the opposite of what you know your quote unquote friends will tell you not to do. So remember, Andi called Gary before she went over to the salon. It's almost like she wanted to get some kind of permission slip from Karen. Hey, I know earlier today you warned me that Gary might come to see me because he came to your salon to see you. But I called him anyway to see him. So yeah. But no, that's not what happened. It's almost like she just wanted to start some nonsense. I mean, it's the same thing. Even when she left, Karen's like, you look better when you were crying instead. It's like the true hurts, don't it? It's like, yeah, shut up. Basically, she comes over because, I don't know, she just knows Karen's going to not mince words with her. So I really don't know what she was expecting. Basically, again, she wanted somebody to blindly justify her feelings. But, oh, I feel alone. I feel so lost. And I feel guilty about what Gary lost. Gary's gotten in her head because, that was his whole stick during season 1. Do you know how much I lost because of you? Same in, the beginning of season 2. And then she tries to call out, Karen for still loving Zach. And it's like, come on, Karen, let's be honest. You're only using Aaron the same way I'm using Paris to fill a void. I don't like Andi. I really don't. So after she just starts the shit, she just decides to just go home, be alone, drink some wine. It's like, I've been around you girls long enough. I just need to be alone right now. No, because she goes to her friends for advice. They give her the advice. When they start to point out the facts, she doesn't want to hear it. So then she rushes off alone to be with Gary. And basically she's playing into Gary's hands the same way Jasmine warned her. He'll isolate you, control everything. So she'll go to Gary, get hurt, and then call on her girls because she needs help. And then the cycle starts all over. How is it only not even 2 complete seasons and I'm already sick of this shit? So we got Fatima going to post bail, and she's talking to one of the other officers, but then Rhea kind of intercepts and it's like, who are you? Oh, friend of Zach, work, and we mentioned chain breakers and the fact that pretty much valid. I think the only reason Rhea got Fatima to go see Zach is because she's like, oh, chain breakers. I know about chain breakers. Yeah, that was the company truck then. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't his. So it's almost like Rhea's like, ooh, I may have been wrong about Zach then. So since no bail is posted, she did arrange for her to go to the back to see Zach, since she works at a law firm. So basically confirming what Zach was saying. So we go over briefly to the bar, and Jacoby's asking Sabrina if she's single, and talks about how Maurice is a bit much, and pretty much, again, just showing some Alonzo vibes. And just based off of Jacoby's way of thinking and whatnot, it definitely seems the complete opposite. I guess the best way to say it is Jacoby isn't as open-minded as Calvin, given the fact that Calvin had 2 dads, whereas Jacoby hasn't really interacted or been around gay people. I guess that's the easiest way to compare it. So he's like, no, don't freak out, don't leave. How about you educate me? We just have kind of like a challenge of opinions and whatnot. So it's hard to tell if he's being genuine or if he's just doing this to, sleep with Sabrina. That's pretty much what it seems like. I just don't like what they're doing with the character, because the way he was coming off in this episode, especially in this scene, just didn't rub me the right way. So we got Rhea bringing Fatima to the back to see Zach, and he mentions like, hey, I'm in here for the $5,000 credit card fraud and the kilo and the truck. And Fatima's like, I believe you, because she knows it wasn't him, but basically hinting at the Hayden thing, and Zach's like, his chain breaker's legit. That's a legitimate concern because he was driving their truck and then there was kilo of coke in there, but he didn't know about it. And that was actually a very valid point she made. Look, the truck was parked in my place, Zach, so if they arrested you, they would have come after me too. So I didn't know about it. But she'll work on it as soon as she can. And, Zach's, obviously worried. So from there, after she leaves, because I do believe it's like, wait, did that police officer let you back in here? She's like, yeah. So I think Zach realizes that Rhea knows that he's not behind all this, but it doesn't matter. She kind of like Jacoby. We're kind of getting some character assassination here because we got both Karen and Rhea assuming the worst of Zach and really not, vouching for him or giving him the benefit of the doubt because of his past record, if you will. With Karen being a cheater and whatnot and a freeloader, and in Rhea's case, just using her as well as his previous, police record. But Fatima is the only one who's down for him right now. All right. So after that, she steps out, calls Hayden, and he's like, hey, you know what? Come over to my place in about an hour for dinner. And we know what happens there based off the preview. Okay, just a couple more scenes here. So Danny gets home and Preston cooked and clean and, brings up the fact, hey, my sister said that she saw you and that you wouldn't tell her a damn thing. But she's like, yeah, but I just don't know who to trust. And, yeah, she's the one that introduced us. But, Preston's like, well, she's one of the good ones. Trust me, I know. And I think that, Danny saw that there were 3 plates set at the table. She automatically assumed it was Zach, but no, the sister was invited over without her knowing it. All right, so then we get to the final scene. Let me put it this way. This was probably the best scene that's been acted by Gary's actor. I am looking at his name right now, but to not offend the actor or disrespect him because I really like the scene, I'll just say the actor that portrays Gary. This was, again, one of the better acting scenes I've seen from him in the show. Nothing against him. I've actually looked him up in other projects, but I've said this about a lot of Tyler Perry actors. A lot of the times, the material Tyler gives them doesn't really allow them to showcase the best of their skills because a lot of the dialogue is stale, repetitive, and we just been hearing the same thing from them over and over again. But in this situation, I think it's because he's less agitated, and it definitely does seem like he might actually be going to the counselor that he claims he's been going to. But you got to think about it. He says he goes 3 times a week, and not that much time has passed between now and the beginning of season 1 where he was still in jail, egging on Andi. But here we go. So despite the fact that Andi invited him over just to talk, she isn't able to put the words together and talk to him. So what was the point of inviting him over? So he comes over, is like, hey, I got 3 things to show you. First, this is the ticket to Boston, and I'll go there and start over unless you tell me no, you want me to stay. Second, the divorce papers. Apparently, his lawyers were working on it behind the scenes, and they pretty much discovered, Jasmine's fingerprints on certain documents, and basically this whole thing just being a scam. It essentially everything that I believe Leslie revealed to Andi towards the end of season 1 that this was all a setup. I don't know if this also included the reasons why he got arrested at the end of season 1 by the feds. It's unclear, but it just seems like that's the case because I don't think that he would be allowed to leave town and whatnot. You know how in like shows and movies, like, hey, you aren't allowed to leave this state or this city until such and such. So it does seem like Gary is indeed innocent of all the charges. The only thing he's being guilty of is being a hot-headed, abusive asshole. But aside from that, he's an innocent man. But if this is actually true and not just something he's drummed up to manipulate Andi, I do wish we would have seen a couple of scenes alluding to this, whether it be like a phone call between, Gary and his lawyer, or even a brief scene with Jasmine and Maurice. I mean, those two having such a pivotal, secondary role last season, it would have been great to see them busted because I think that's one reason why, or the main reason why Jasmine signed the divorce papers, because she realized if she didn't, she would go to jail because, you know, her and Maurice's fraud had been exposed. But the third thing is the card to show, hey, this is my counselor 3 times a week. You know, I told the counselor to, if you contact them, they will tell you everything to, you know, prove that I've been doing it. I got anger issues. I'm working on that. Even if I leave to go to Boston, I'll find another counselor up there. And here's the first thing that I really liked about, believe it or not, I do have a couple of things about Andi here. I did like the fact she's like, Gary, I can't tell you to stay. I like that because she deflected what Gary was trying to throw at her, because that's a big thing in season 1. You know, Gary seemingly putting a lot of pressure on Andi in the moment to make these life-changing decisions. But, you know, either way, Gary manipulates the situation where, I think I made this comparison in either a video earlier this week or one I recorded earlier tonight, where I said it's almost like Gary hands the keys over to Andi, but at the end of the day, he's still the one driving, if that makes any sense. So, she's like, hey, I can't be the one to tell you to stay. And he promises he'll do better. He'll wait for her. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. He also like, look, you know, I'm not that man. I'm the man that you told everybody about, the good man. And, you know, I'll protect you. I'll never hurt you. And I'm like, you bruised her ribs. I actually look back at a scene from towards the end of season 1, you know, after Sabrina comforted Andi after she came out of Jasmine's hospital room. You know, he's going to do this to you. He's going to do this to you. He's going to do to you what he did to me. And then Sabrina's like, look, your ex in college who abused you. Yeah, well, I left him. You didn't leave him until he bruised your ribs. And it's like, well, we're in the same situation now. Gary bruised her ribs. So now look at where we're at now. Well, not the fourth thing, but pretty much, you know, in addition to everything, it's like, hey, you know what? I said that I'd marry you after my divorce was fine, after I got divorced, and the divorce papers are signed. So here's this ring. And again, he's like, I'm not asking you. This is a lot. I understand it, but keep this ring for as long as you want to. I promise I'll just continue to do better, and I'll wait for you. Essentially, this is a promise ring. I need to get a close-up of the ring because I'm like, remember back in season 1 when Gary originally proposed, but then Andi's like, forget this, no. And then later that day, I believe, when Andi went to work, Jasmine showed up again to flash the ring, which was the same ring he used to propose to her. So I don't know if this is the same ring. I got to go back and look at it. But in any case, he leaves and I'm like, wow. If he's being 100% genuine, bravo. But if he's not, I could definitely see him trying to manipulate the situation. But in any case, I remember reading some tweets last night. And I'm like, damn, more characters are rooting for Gary than Andi. And I can definitely see why. So as soon as he's about to leave, Karen walks in and all hell's about to break loose. That's the end of the episode. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty solid episode. Yeah, I just felt like Rhea and Jacoby, they're just bringing out the worst in those characters for seemingly no reason. We didn't get a lot of Danni in the episode. You know, definitely felt more focused on the Sabrina and Andi storylines, kind of like, you know, Danni and Karen having semi-supporting roles, which is fine. This was a decent episode, not just setting things up, but also a decent episode all around. So I stand by the 8/10 score, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal, Cash App, or join Patreon for as little as $1 a month.